Welcome to Speaking of Spirituality, a podcast to share about the path of spiritual awakening. I'm your host, Amelia McLean, and I am so excited to be showcasing some inspiring stories and exploring some interesting topics, all under the umbrella of spirituality. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So what does spiritual awakening mean to you?
First of all, thanks for having me. Well,
Yeah, it's a big question.
it is a big question because it's like, what does it mean to me now versus before my spiritual awakening? Spiritual awakening, I think, is when you wake up to your authentic self. When you like take off your mask and you actually live the person you were meant to be instead of what you thought you were supposed to be. And I'll go into more detail, I guess, about that, but it's more, you start to live like present to future more than like past to present. I think one of the huge awakening that I had was partly that I realized that we create our own reality with our thoughts. So most people are just repeating the same behaviors. They're repeating family trauma. They're repeating what their parents, they turn into their parents. They turn into everything that everybody else wants them to be. And so that's what spiritual awakening means, waking up to your authentic, learning to listen to your inner self, learning to listen to the universe, to source, God, whatever you believe in, and follow that guidance into what your true path is supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's like, that's the spiritual aspect.
Yeah, that is spirituality in a nutshell. Yeah, to me, at least.
Totally. Yeah, it's like living in a spirit-driven way. Seeing like now that I went through my spirit, I see everything through a spiritual lens. Like everything is.
Yeah, everything's a sign. Oh, all the little signs, all the little things. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like I live in a video game, you know.
Right?
Sometimes this is how I treat it. I just laugh. I'm like, don't take it so seriously. It's just my little video game.
Yeah. What character are you today?
Let me guess today. This is really nice. Usually I'm the host and like doing all the things. So yeah, thanks for having me. This is really amazing. I love that you're doing this because my spiritual awakening was scary and quick. And I went from completely asleep to completely awake. And so this is my first time talking about it. Yeah. And I've thought about how to tell my story. I write about it. I feel like I'm writing a book. I joke about that I'm writing a book, but this is really my first time talking about it publicly. And I think it's something we need to talk about more. Yeah.
For more people like you to be able to hear other people's and know that you're not crazy, right? Because
I got a crazy story.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. What happened?
I guess I'll just start from when it happened and then we can go backwards and forwards from there because it's a long story, like leading up to it, and I can get sidetracked really easy. My spiritual awakening happened really fast and coincidentally coincided with COVID lockdown. So it was wild. So everybody was already losing their shit. Am I allowed to say shit?
Yeah.
So, you know, like I say, there was things leading up to it that was, you know, that I was doing, and I had been prolonging it, I think. And I'll go back to that, I think. But what really happened was I ordered this damn book, Becoming Supernatural, by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'd never heard of it. It literally fell into my lap. I'm awake a lot in the middle of the night, and I do like crazy Amazon buys. Sometimes, you know, like half asleep. But I also feel I've learned that that's when I'm the most intuitive. That's when I'm in the brain state waves of like being the most intuitive. So I was actually reading my horoscope, and it said something about Occam's razor, which I'd never heard of. It's like a theory. So I was looked up the thing, and I'm like, I need a book on this. So I get on Amazon, and I'm ordering this book on Occam's razor. And Amazon said, oh, if you spend $3 more, you get free shipping, which looking back now is crazy because I have Prime, I have free shipping. So why was that? Who knows? I was supposed to buy this damn book. So then I'm scrolling through like things you might like, you know, and I see Becoming Supernatural. I'm like, ooh. And I was just buying it before I didn't even read like what it was about or anything. I just bought it. So the two books come, and I didn't even read Occam's razor. I still haven't even touched it. I started reading Supernatural, and it was so over my head, and I wasn't ready. I put it down. I wasn't ready. I picked it up like 5 more times. Wasn't ready. And that was like 6 months went by. So finally in like January 2020, I did a like 30-day detox and gave up everything: sugar, alcohol, flour, meat, dairy. A lot of that I've already given up, but I was totally clean. And so since I wasn't drinking, I kind of hunkered down a little bit more, and I was reading and just, not being as social. I'm not eating super clean, so I'm just reading. And so I pick up the book and I start getting into it. And it was things I'd never even heard of before. I mean, I was already on this kind of path to tying science to spirituality because I was doing yoga. I was meditating a little bit, but I was very asleep. I was very unconscious. I was living in fight or flight, survival mode, just going through the motions. And I started doing the meditations in the book. And it was these really crazy, like breathing exercises and just focusing and listening to things and reading about quantum physics really for the first time ever. And I was just obsessed. I couldn't stop. And then we went into lockdown. And so then I started doing the meditations even more, doing other Joe Dispenza meditations. And I had no idea what was happening to me. I mean, I was reading in the book, but I didn't know. All of a sudden I just started seeing everything differently. And not to mention the fact that the whole world's in timeout. Like I feel like it was happening to me, but I feel like there was something happening on the collective level now, looking back, that we were all in a timeout for a reason. It was really, we hit this tipping point, but in a bad way and in a good way. Looking back now, I think that we hit this tipping point in like consciousness where enough people were awake that it's starting to happen exponentially, I believe. And I think it's a good thing. But when you have a spiritual awakening, so what I think happened too is when you ask the universe for things, when you pray for things, when you're talking to yourself in your head, and asking for more, like asking for answers, you're given everything that you ask for. Most people just don't understand what they're asking for. And they use the wrong words, and the universe doesn't know the difference between no and don't. They're giving it to you anyway. So most people are thinking about what they don't want. So they're getting more of what they don't want. So when I started being open to asking questions, and I started realizing I wanted to heal and change my life, and I really think your spiritual awakening happens, like the real turning point is when you face your worst fear. And being alone. So I remember crying myself to sleep like months before that, thinking I just gotten out of a really shitty relationship, and just like I just thinking I didn't want to be alone. And then that's exactly what happened. So while I'm having my spiritual awakening, I have 3 kids. I'm divorced, and of course I'm talking about some crazy stuff, and the whole COVID thing's happening, and I was talking about conspiracy theories and
On social media?
Oh yeah. And so, the kids' dad just thought I was losing it, and I didn't know what was happening to me. Everybody was losing it. That's what was wild. I felt like I was holding it together more than most people, but I wasn't buying into the same narrative that everybody else was. So the kids' dad took my kids away from me. And it's really hard for me to talk about now, but that was part of my worst fears too, was standing up to him. I have to say, I let him control me even after being divorced for 12 years. And this was my opportunity to stand up to him and face, he was one of my worst fears too. But I was alone. My friends, my family, everybody thought I'd freaking lost it, and this is another reason I need to talk about spiritual awakening too. And I'll divert a little bit from my actual story to say that, people are having spiritual awakenings all the time and they don't know it.
Yeah.
I think in our Western culture, it's exactly what a midlife crisis is. It really is. It's people waking up you wake up one day and you're like, this is not the life I want to be living. I'm living, like I say, past to present. I'm not creating my own reality. You wake up one day and you're your freaking parents, or you're in a job that you absolutely hate, or you're 50 pounds overweight, or you're, broke and you don't understand where all your money is, people are just like, what the hell happened to me? And I learned what happened in my case my spiritual awakening happened so fast because I was doing these meditations, and I learned scientifically, and I can go into a little bit about what happened in my brain, and that I was actually emitting DMT from my brain naturally. What most people take drugs to do. Yeah, through the breath work. Yeah. Joe Dispenza teaches you that. It's absolutely possible. What Western culture would call what happened to me is psychosis.
Right. Yeah.
And what they do with people, they put you in a mental institution and they put you on medication. Mm-hmm. Thank freaking God. I had one friend, and that's how I met you, through Amy. I had one friend that I met that she totally talked me through it. And luckily I was aware enough at what was happening to me because I was reading the book, and I knew that I wasn't losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And my dad was actually supportive, even though he had no idea what was happening to me. And he already thought I was crazy. He used to tell people I was crazy before I had my spiritual awakening. He was actually supportive and helped me get a lawyer and stand up to the kids' dad and get my kids back. So I did have a little bit of support, but everybody else all my friends, everybody was just talking. She's lost it. She's crazy. She's gone off the deep end.
Your mom too, right?
My mom was actually like cohorting with the kids' dad against me. Like, she was going to tell texts that I had been sending her were like going to be used against me in court.
Oh my God.
And so, but the first thing, and so, I was like, you need therapy. So I'm like, absolutely, I'll go to therapy. Everybody needs therapy. Sure. Right now, especially. So, in the first 15 minutes of therapy, my therapist is like, you're not crazy. You need to stand up to these people. You need to, they've been controlling you your whole life. You realize that, right? And so I told my mom that, and that's actually when he got a lawyer and like took me to court. And I was like, okay, here we go. And so that was intense. It was really intense trying to open, here I am, just my pineal gland ripped open to the spiritual realm. And I also have to hold it down in Muggle 3D world, get my kids back and not talk about spirituality. Because when we went to mediation, the mediator's like, you can't talk to your kids about conspiracy theories. And I'm like, okay, well, let's define a conspiracy theory so I don't make this mistake again. Please define a conspiracy theory. What do you consider a conspiracy theory? He said anything that's not mainstream.
Oh my God. Wow, that's how they get you, man. That's so
anything
crazy.
that's not mainstream. And I said, so is God a conspiracy theory? And he shut up. Everybody shut up. Nobody said a freaking word to me after that. Nobody ever gave me crap about being a conspiracy theorist again. Mm-hmm. Wow. Like anything that's not, I was not allowed to. So I am basically, I can't work that. Basically not allowed to talk to my kids about anything that wasn't a mainstream belief.
Wow, the brainwashing is deep.
Yeah. So anyway, the court system, the judge saw right there. He saw I was not crazy. The kids' dad would like not give up. I had, my therapist had to write a letter to the court system, saying that I didn't need medication and that I was absolutely capable of taking care of kids. And mind you, I didn't done anything. I was just talking about things. I hadn't done anything crazy. Like, I did shave my head.
Then you shaved your head.
I did shave my head. That was freaking amazing.
Tell me about that. Like, what?
I don't even know. So, like I say, there were things leading up to it months and months before. But I was numbing it. Drinking drugs and alcohol. I was completely fighting it. I didn't know what was happening to me, but I was also living in survival mode. I had a really crazy, super successful business. I had a store. I had 3 kids. I was a single mom. I had a house. I had this. I had that. I was doing online dating. I was doing everything to like distract myself from going within and like letting it all out. And so, what did you ask me originally? I forgot already.
Why did you tell me about your hair?
Oh, shaving my head. So I used to have this long, pretty blonde hair, that I colored, and it was just part of my mask I was wearing, everything. And I delved into it in therapy. It was wild because we talked about, it was a lot related to my daddy issues, and my dad always would like play with my hair and be like, oh, your long, pretty hair, it's a pretty girl, such a pretty girl, And then, when my dad, with my abandonment issues with my dad, I cut my hair off. It became a tomboy. Like looking back and making the connections now, kind of wild. So I've always connected my hair with like being pretty and like attracting as men, I guess, you know, it is very cliche, you know, we're very attached to our hair. But I've always done crazy things with my hair. I've dyed my hair, cut it short, you know, and done all this stuff, but I never shaved it. But like 6 months before, I had started like shaving just like the side of it, even though it was still long, I was shaving the side of it. And then when COVID hit, obviously nobody was getting their hair done, you know? So I got out my clippers to just shave the side. And this is a lie that I told everyone, that I just messed up, or I don't remember what I told people. Oh, I, was a little tipsy and I messed it up. No, it was a full conscious, I'm going to shave my head. It was right in the midst of the craziest part of my spiritual awakening. Wow. And it was intuitive. It was part of, and looking back now, and I'm in some really crazy like yoga training right now, but it's very much like a death and rebirth and like starting over and like a cleansing process. And it was also taking off my mask. It was literally like a physical way of shedding that old person that I was trying to be for everybody else. It was the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life.
Did you feel like, how did you feel?
Liberated times 1,000.
Yeah. Just like,
oh yeah. Wow. Oh yeah. It was wild. I used to have to sleep with a hood on because I was so cold, but I would just rub my head. Yeah. All the time. I'm just like, did I really just do this?
Did you ever get into wigs?
And that was the point when, my parents actually called the police on me. It came to do a mental well check on me. Yeah.
Oh my God. It reminds me of Britney Spears.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely see why Britney Spears. I will not deny I pulled a Britney Spears. Yeah.
I tried to research one time, like, why did she do that? And I think it was.
Well, didn't you hear her parents would totally control her? Her dad, like, she's not allowed to do anything. Her dad completely manages her money. And then, yeah, it's a control thing. And it was a release of control. And maybe it's like one of the only things, you can control, is the way you look, and I did feel like I didn't have any control. People were telling me I wasn't capable of being a mom, but actually I don't think I had gotten my kids taken away. I think I still had my kids when I shaved my head, but I think it was one of the things that they're like, oh, she's losing it. Oh. So you're not allowed to cut your hair off. Yeah. But like I can see it. It was psychosis. It was a psychosis. And the kids' dad's lawyer even said that in court. It's like she's lost touch with reality.
Well, the reality that everybody.
Yeah. It was funny because it was via Zoom, obviously, because nothing was happening. But it was amazing, like how fast it went through the court system. I had an amazing attorney, and so I didn't, and it was on Zoom. I didn't even, I wasn't even showing my face, I was just watching. But yeah, I literally started cracking up when his lawyer was like, she's lost. I'm like, no, it's like I found reality. It was wild. I think about that all the time,
And so what happened then? Like, so your kids get taken away.
Oh, so yeah, I got my kids. Anyways, I went through the court system so fast. The judge saw right through it. He saw I wasn't crazy. He could easily see, that the kid's dad was just pushing me around, and, that I wasn't crazy, that I'm not like most people. Yeah, maybe I am a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe mainstream things. I don't live in that kind of reality. I've chosen something different. But I was absolutely capable of having my kids. So yeah, I got him back ASAP, and even better. Like we had some other kind of like bullshit stuff in our custody thing before that I got on top of. It cleared everything out, and everything was cut and dry. And that was so liberating too. I wasn't demanding respect from anybody. Yeah. I didn't like the person I was letting people just, I was just going through the motions. I had no control of my life. I think that's a part of your spiritual awakening, is waking up. Oh yeah, I'm creating my reality. I was letting everybody else create my reality. I was letting everybody else tell me that I was crazy. I was really starting to believe that I was crazy. For the first time in my life, I'm not crazy, because everybody was letting me think that. People tell you you're ugly long enough, you're going to think you're ugly. So I got my kids back, but that was a whole another chapter, because now I had to go back. My kids were terrified of me.
Oh, because of all the
Yeah, and I was freaking out about some stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I was freaking out a little bit and then maybe talking about some things I shouldn't have talked about in front of my kids. But I can't say that I regret it, And so when I got my kids back, I got so excited. I have an RV. I'm like, we're going to Yellowstone. Let's go on a road trip, because there's nothing to do. They weren't in school. They were kind of depressed, I'm like, let's go on a road trip. We don't have to talk to anybody. We don't have to see anybody. The kids' dad fought me tooth and nail, tried to call his attorney, say I couldn't take the kids out of state. My attorney's like, yes, she can. I went to go pick my kids up for the trip and they're like, we don't want to go. You can't make us. Their dad literally told them that I was going to kidnap them.
Oh my God.
And so I just left. I went on the trip anyways.
Oh.
And I ended up going other places because I'd already been to Yellowstone. I just wanted to go take them there. And I went on this 3,000-mile road trip by myself and I was literally looking for somewhere else to live. I was ready to just walk away from my life. I'm like, I just spent so much money and so much energy and so much time fighting for my kids. And now they don't even want to be with me. And I'm starting this new life with or without them. Like, I can't be there anymore. Like I say, everybody in this town was like laughing at me, it was like a laughing. Yeah. And I was like, and I thought for sure I was leaving. And then I came back, I sat them down, said, I'm only here for you guys. If you guys want to come back and live with me, and then I'll stay. But if you guys don't want to live with me, then I'm leaving. And my two youngest ones stayed. And then my oldest one went to live with he was in high school. 16, I think. He stayed at his dad's, but we stayed in touch and it's been a beautiful healing process. We're super close now.
Wow.
And I'm super close with my daughter and my son. I teach at my son's school now. And, it's freaking amazing now. But I demanded their respect too. And it took some time. And I think they have a whole new level of respect. And I think they're starting to realize some of the things I'm talking about weren't so crazy. Maybe my mom's not wrong, I'm not going to sit here and badmouth their dad. That's not, but they're starting to realize that they can create their own reality too. I talk about this kind of stuff, spirituality, openly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys don't have to believe it. I'm not going to push it on you. And I tell them all the time, you are creating your own reality. Don't let anybody else tell you what you have to believe ever.
Wow. Good. That's so good.
Yeah. And I've learned a lot about spirituality and raising kids too, with, how much we try to control our kids too. I've really relinquished my control over them. And I think that was one of my issues with my oldest and why we struggle, and some of the healing that we've gone through is that, part of my awakening was that, it's not my job. My kids came here with their own destiny, their own plan, their own stuff. I'm just here to support them.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And I learned that on my healing. And that was part of the healing process with my mom too. Everything's fine with my mom and I are great now. She comes to my yoga classes. She's in the best shape she's ever been. And she had, I don't know if my mom, I wouldn't call it a spiritual awakening, but she's having awareness for the first time in her life.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Tell me more about that. Cause you said she read some book or something that.
Oh yeah. Best book ever. I can, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Possibly it's definitely in my top 5. It's under supernatural. But maybe number 2 for like healing. It's not so much spirituality. It's a straight up like therapy, self-help book. But everybody should read it. I actually the secret to the book is you can't tell your parents about it because it's so triggering. Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I mean, no parent wants to hear that they're emotionally immature. But I took the step in one of the healing processes. I don't know if we actually ever read it, but I gave it to my son. So I admitted to him that I was emotionally immature.
Your oldest?
My oldest son, the one that chose not to live with me. He never said, I don't know if we've ever even actually talked about it, but I think just seeing that I was having that awareness and that I was admitting that I had some emotional shit to heal from, it's changed a lot for him. And, but anyways, you can't tell your parents about it. So that's the hard part. So I had talked about it on like my social media, and I think it must've been my aunt someone told my mom about it. Someone told her and she read it, and we actually weren't talking. We didn't talk for like a year and a half. that was a huge part. I'll go back to it, is you have to separate yourself from people when you're going through a spiritual awakening. It's a very lonely process. But she, as someone told, and so my aunt told me that she read the book, but we still don't. I'm like, well, why wouldn't she tell me that she read the book and, you know, have a card? So my mom reached out to me and said she read the book. And that was one of our first conversations, is, you know, she had awareness and understood the emotional struggles I was going through and why I was living such an unhealthy life. You know, it's all your repeated family trauma shit we're holding on to. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, going back to the spiritual awakening thing too, it's a lonely process.
Yeah.
You have to, because you're just like stripping down your old self and getting rid of everything. And then as you're going through your awakening, you know, in your awakening, so you realize you're an energetic being, basically, is what happens too. And that matter, you're 99.99999% energy. So, you know, you're really just vibrating at a certain frequency. And most of the time, most people are vibing pretty low. So when you have this awakening and this awareness, and you start moving through the healing process, your vibration raises. As your vibration raises, people you are vibing with you just don't, like, common verbiage is you don't vibe with someone anymore. That's exactly what it is. You're at different vibrational frequencies. And the more you just keep going with your own, those people literally just fall away. Like, you don't have to do anything. They just kind of disappear. It's pretty wild.
There's nothing left in common.
There's nothing. Yeah. And you just feel the difference. You just, it's so.
Yeah. And then I feel like for me anyway, it was like, I started to care so much about my energy and my frequency and spending time with people who understood me and who felt good to be around. And I just realized, like, I don't feel good around a lot of the people that I would usually be hanging out with.
No, it's wild. And it's wild. And I realized when you try to hold on to something, and people are just an example, anything, a job, anything, a belief system, and it literally starts to make you sick, and you become more aware of that too when you're holding on to something that doesn't match your frequency. Like, you get sick, and you can't. I'm at that spot within my career, and I have a pretty rad career. I play with flowers for a living, but I know now that I'm so much more into my spirituality, and after what happened to me, I'm like, I want to help people. So, going back too. So when I was having my awakening, during the time that I didn't have my kids, I go to a clairvoyant. Like I say, I was always curious about the spiritual world, but I didn't really have that many people in my life that were like that. Probably because I was vibing so low. But, you know, and I was, but I did go to this clairvoyant once a year, who was amazing. And so I instantly went to her, and it was we had to do it via Zoom, and I explained to her what happened. And she's like, have you ever heard of Kundalini? And I'm like, wow, never even heard that word. You know, I've been going to yoga a long time, but she's like, you need to learn everything you can about Kundalini. She's like, that's what happened to you. You had a Kundalini awakening. And I was like, okay. So I'm instantly just like getting online, get Audible. I listened to a lot of books on Audible. I just downloaded all these Audible books and read everything I could about Kundalini, which is, it's the energy at the base of your spine that's all coiled up. And so doing these meditations and these crazy intense breathing exercises, like, unlocked that Kundalini energy too, and started pushing all of my cerebral spinal fluid up, and which was pushing all my other chemicals, which obviously is what happened with the DMT. And it just awakens your energy body that's been sleeping, that dormant energy. And so I was just fascinated by it. And so Kundalini yoga is a thing I learned. And so I was doing and I realized that's what Joe Dispenza is teaching. And I went back and I reread that book line for line. He uses the word Kundalini one time in the book. I'm like, God damn it. He needs to put that all over this book. He needs to put a warning sign on that book. This book is going to change your life forever. There's no going back. It's like taking the red pill of the Matrix, you know, that's literally what you cannot go back. But that's the beauty beautiful part of spiritual awakening. Like you have little regressions, but you don't ever regress back to being unconscious. Once you're awake, you're awake.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And you may take like, you know, a little baby step back, but you're always moving forward. And that's the cool part. And the same with your frequency too. Your frequency is always raising too. You may go down just a little bit, but it kind of seems like once you're on that path, you don't really fall back down into apathy and all those like super lower things. I mean, some people do, you know, if they
maybe not super low, but I definitely know what you mean. Like
there's waves. It's your healing process, you know, your dark nights of the soul, and they're you know, ripping open the layers and stuff too. But I do think that you keep moving in the direction, you know, because you already know that feeling. You already know what it's like to be, I use Abraham Hicks terms a lot, on the high flying disc, you know, that you want to get back there. And every time I feel like you go down, but it gets easier to get back up to those higher vibrations.
Marriage definitely. And then the baby.
You know what? That's funny because that's what I wanted to go back and talk about my past and like how, you know, like what, you know, because I do feel like I was on that path. I mean, I was doing crazy psychedelic drugs in high school, like a lot, you know, like I was having all these experiences in high school and I was just, you know, going through the motions. And I lived in a pretty high frequency, but I did have all this stored trauma, this deep underlying stuff that was, and I feel like marriage and kids brings that up to you. I think kids especially, we talked about this a little bit the other day, and it had got me thinking a lot more about it too. It really was, I think, a turning point in my life, you know, that really keeps you, because you can't focus on yourself at all. You're focused on your kids and your family, and you're putting yourself last.
Yeah. I heard one time that like, as you're parenting and you're watching your child go through the ages, it brings up whatever you were going through in that age. Like,
oh, absolutely. It's such a triggering thing too. Well, because then you start to realize, and looking back now, like I had no idea how to be a parent. The only parenting you have is what your parents did. So we start repeating these behaviors. I mean, my God, why don't we have parenting classes?
I know, I got lucky. I studied child development.
Most people don't.
Yeah. Everybody should. It should be like mandatory, because those classes were so helpful for me to understand. Because now the way that I think about myself and everyone else is like, for the grand majority of people, are acting out of trauma, like you're saying, like whatever we experience is how we're acting, unless we're like super conscious of everything that we're doing.
Yeah. And like I say, Joe Dispenza goes into a lot in the book. It's how we create our reality is, you know, our emotions are based on past experience. So my definition of love is based on my past experience of love, which could be really shitty.
Yeah. And if you weren't aware when you got married, it was probably mirroring something that you were.
Oh yeah, what attracted me to the kids as dad, you know, was what I thought, you know, was in a partner, which was, you know, some not very healthy things, and the things you think are important in your 20s are not what's important. And I was gonna go back to
your kids and how they helped you awaken and
actually the kids don't help, and your kids hold you back. Well, because you become your parent.
Right.
And so that triggers you because you know you're not quite doing it right, and you know that, you know, you're mad at your parents for the way your parents treated you, but yeah, you're doing it to your kids subconsciously, and you don't even realize it. And then your kids regret, you know, are mad at you, and then it's just it's a cycle. Yeah. And I changed that cycle, and I ended it, and I'm doing things very differently.
Wow.
And
that's hard to do in the middle of when you're already a parent, right?
Oh yeah.
Like to be like, okay, kids, now we're gonna do something differently.
Oh yeah. Well, I did do things a little bit differently with my daughter too. But I mean, when I was a teenager, I was horrible. Yeah. I was rebelling. And so everybody, and who knows, my daughter might too, but so far so good. Like, we have a very different relationship, but my daughter's tapped into her spirituality too.
How old is she now?
13.
Okay.
She talks about her past lives.
Whoa, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I made a joke once. She did something bratty or something. She was like 8 when we first started talking about it. And I said, I can't wait for you to be my mom in the next life, or I can't wait to be the daughter or something. And she looked at me without even like pausing. She's like, I've already been your mom.
Wow.
I know. I was like, no way. Like, I know, right? Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Her and I talk about stuff. She has memories of her past lives all the time. Anything like, she says that she was like a hitman.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And like New York or something in like the 20s. Anytime she sees like anything from, when she was a little girl too, this was right around the same time. She would put on those puffy jackets that have like the fur around the collar, and she put it on. She was like rubbing on my face, and she goes, I'm like, what are you thinking about? You know, cause you could tell she was like deep in thought. She's like, this reminds me of, when I was a hitman or something. We first started talking about that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have these antique suitcases, and she opened one up and she was just like touching the lining. And I could just tell it was bringing something back for her. Yeah. It's wild when she sees like really old cars and stuff.
Huh. Wow. That's fascinating. I've heard kids are so much more, like, especially when they're really young, they're more tapped in, they remember more.
Kids are spiritually awake when we're little. We crush it. That could be a whole podcast in itself, how we crush our kids, their imaginary friends and the things they see and the things my kids used to talk in a language. They had their own little like light language.
Whoa.
Because they were only a year apart, that they would talk to each other. And yeah, we crush all that, telling kids they're crazy, not to do this, don't do that, you know, sit still, don't play, you know, like.
That's awful.
I think, yeah.
The school system.
Yeah. You left the school system?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was gonna be a teacher.
Okay. I think mine would be
Oh, no,
kid.
when I was a child, no.
Yeah.
No, I was like gonna be an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
And I was like halfway through a credential program, almost halfway through. And I dropped out of it. It was almost, and that's actually because I went through my spiritual awakening. And I was like, oh my God, I did the wrong place.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should talk about that too, because that was crucial after my awakening. Like I say, I had my one friend, Amy, that was very spiritually awake. She was my new friend. She just came out of nowhere and swooped me up and walked me through the process of what was happening to me. And also Melanie, you know, and Kundalini. Oh, because this ties back to Kundalini too. So before COVID, I was doing moon circles, kind of half conscious and being called to the moon, but not really knowing exactly what I'm doing. And there was just no way we were doing moon circles. And so Amy hosted one at her house, and that's how I met you. And I met other women, like I say, I instantly started just meeting new people that I vibrated with, and they were on the same journey as me. And it was a beautiful time for all of us. And you were a part of that too. And then we went to that trip to Mount Shasta. So anyways, like 4 months after I learned what Kundalini was and I'm doing all this stuff, I meet Monique, who's just come back from India and is a certified Kundalini yoga teacher. I mean, this is how the world should work. It's magic.
Yeah.
I was now tapped into the magic. I was now consciously creating my life. That's what spiritual awakening is, when you're consciously creating. And I was following the signs and going through the things, and things just start lining up for you. And so after going to Shasta and that amazing adventure and doing Kundalini with Monique, I'm like, I need to learn more about this, because this is what woke me up. And I want to be able to help people through their awakening. I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through in this gnarly process and to feel alone. So I got my 200-hour Kundalini yoga certification. But like I say, it's a hard transition for me because, like I say, I have a successful business. And I was already a personal trainer and teaching fitness, and now getting into yoga, I understand why Pilates was so crucial to me too, because it's your back. And so I already had that going for me, because a straight spine is like everything in your spiritual awakening, because that's where your biggest energy centers are. And that's where the energy is flowing. And that's why people get sick, because their energy centers are blocked. People have bad posture. They're not breathing properly. All their energy is getting blocked up. And that's what's creating disease, stored emotions, all of that. So I've done nothing but learn about that since then. I just signed up even more now. So I started teaching yoga, and I'm like, that's not enough. And now I'm doing an 800-hour. So I'll be a certified yoga therapist.
Tell me what does that mean?
I'm still learning myself. Basically it's tying it into the medical world.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly how it's going to be recognized here in the United States. Because Western medicine is something else. And that's why people are so sick. And I just I'm gonna do everything I can, my part to help. But it's really hard to I hate to use the word brainwash, but to unteach people what, I mean, people were healthier 5,000, I'm learning all about the history of yoga. People were healthier 5,000 years ago, living hundreds of years. Yogis were living for, I mean, and now people have completely lost faith in themselves and that they're conscious creators and that they can heal. We can absolutely heal ourselves. We don't need any of those pharmaceutical drugs. The history of Western medicine is it started when they healed a broken bone.
Right.
And then it branched off into this whole other world of pharmaceuticals and vaccines and money. And before that, it was holistic and it was Eastern. And so anyways, in India, I'll be a certified like therapist and but I don't know how the US recognizes it because it's all online and training with doctors and yoga instructors in India. But basically it's healing medical issues with yoga.
Oh.
And also emotional issues too, because like I say, that's the root of most sickness and disease is stored emotions. And so it's teaching people how to heal themselves.
Is it aspects of it is Ayurveda or is it just like
Ayurveda is a little bit different. It's more just yoga, breathing.
Okay, so like breathing and asana?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pranayama, meditation too.
Okay. So
yeah, all of that.
Or the training that you're doing doesn't have anything about Ayurveda in it?
I don't think so. There is nutrition, a little nutritional stuff, but not Ayurveda was a separate one. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you're doing that. I think it's going to be really
I'm really excited. Yeah.
So your flower business also such a passion, like you're already, I don't know, I feel like most people like, when they are waking up and they realize that they don't like their job oftentimes. I mean, that's happened for me and so, but I
know, that's why I feel like such a spoiled brat when I say I'm tired with flowers. But it's all I've ever done. I've done it since I was 17.
Yeah.
I've owned 4 businesses. I've been doing it 26 years. But it's not feeding my soul, and I'm waking up to like my soul purpose is obviously helping people heal and on this beautiful like spiritual awakening that we're on a collective level. I'm like, I have to be a part of this. I am a part. There's a reason that I'm awake and why so many are still sleeping. I'm here to be part of the change. But learning too, they actually talk about it too, is how therapeutic playing with flowers is. So I'm like, I already have this really amazing job. So what I'm started to do is, like I say, shift more just into my teacher role, period. Like I say, I've been teaching fitness for 10 years. And I've been teaching floral classes like in small groups, wreath making and that kind of stuff. But now I'm taking it to last year. I did my first master class because I know that I'm shifting out of it and I can't really sell my business. I mean, how do you sell flower business? Like selling your art business, like kind of. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching these master classes where I'm basically like passing on my flower legacy and I'm teaching people how to be florists and slowly passing off my clients and my customers and my weddings and taking on less and teaching more. And then my big one is that I started teaching floral design at a high school. And so working with kids is bringing my passion back and it's bringing my purpose back. And it's really freaking beautiful, especially in being at a charter school. It's a Northern United Humboldt Charter School.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
I know, it's really great. They have like 5 branches. There's one here in Arcata. There's one in Eureka. There's 2 in Eureka. One's like K through 8, and then the high school is like in Pine Hill, and then they have 2 smaller branches too.
I'm so surprised that I haven't heard of it because I worked in education for so long here.
I think it might have been called something else, and then they branched off of something else.
The acronym?
NUHC or NUCH, NUCH.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it's great. They're just adding on, and they really work with the kids. And they let the kids go with their intuition and what they're drawn to. And you want to learn about this, let's do this. And part of the reason I'm there too is because they want to be the kids have to be in ag classes to go to FFA or 4-H. So my syllabus is an ag syllabus. So the kids I'm considered an ag class. And so I'm actually working on getting my credential to be certified ag teacher.
Oh, nice.
So then, yeah, they can do that. So that's really cool. And then in January, I start teaching PE. So working with the kids and going back to the Pilates too, that I've always been called to working with breath work too, you know, and your breath work is everything. It controls everything in your body. People don't understand that. This thing that they do 25,000 times a day that they take advantage of.
I know. It's so crazy. People are just like breathing wrong.
Breathing unconsciously. Yeah. Breathing wrong, shallow breath. Yeah. Realizing they can control everything with their breath, their emotions. Yeah. Their heart rate, their all your system, your nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah. Everything.
Yeah. Wim Hof is really into that too.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And people are doing that, but it's like, to me, that just still seems like they don't really understand what they're doing. And he's not really teaching them that, you know, I mean, you're teaching them how to control the breath, but that's it, you know?
Right. Not more of the like what's actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people need to put warning labels on. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? I don't know. What should we?
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share, or like, how do you feel like your spiritual awakening changed you? Like when you look back, like what are the biggest things that changed about your life?
Well, the biggest change, I guess, or awareness I had. I mean, and in the moon circles, I was doing this, you know, I was coming to the moon circles like every month. So every month, you know, we set our intention at the new moon. So I was working my way up the vibrational scale on the at the moon circle. So every month I would shoot for like the next emotion, you know, because that's how we manifest things is you have to be a vibrational match to what you're trying to manifest. Therefore, you have to be living in the emotion that you want to have if you want something, you know. So if you want money, what kind of emotion is money going to give you? It's going to give you the feeling of safety and security, but also freedom. So you have to practice that emotion before, if you want to have the money, you have to have the emotion first. You know, most people can't do that because they keep thinking, living in that state of lack. So I was moving my way up the scale with that. And I came to a Qigong class here, or when you guys were still in McKinleyville, when I was going to Corbin's class. And I remember coming home, and that's when I hit the emotion of peace. And I remember it was really pretty night. It must have been like a cool moon or something. I was sitting on my porch, and I just remember I said it out loud. I'm like, I have peace. And that was really a turning point for me. And things really started to change. It was probably the first time I had felt peace, like really calmness, and learn in yogi terms or whatever too. I was finally moved out of those lower 3 chakras, you know, of survival. I was out of survival mode. I wasn't treading water anymore. I wasn't putting out fires. I wasn't, you know, living past the present anymore. I'd hit that. I called it 0 point, you know, because I was actually like healthy mentally, you know, I was peaceful. Like I was calm. I wasn't worried about anything. Like I felt good. I was in the present moment. I could enjoy the present moment without thinking. My mind wasn't going in every direction. We don't even realize how many thoughts we have every day. And that's the first thing you learn in yoga training too, is that thinking is just talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Like what story are you telling yourself? Those thoughts too. Most people aren't talking very nicely to themselves. And so that's one of the biggest changes, is just feeling so much calmer and moving slower. Moving so much slower. I still move fast because that's just my personality. It is. And I have a lot to bring, you know. I am one of those people that just has a lot to bring. I'm a teacher, you know. I know that. I'm a teacher and a healer, you know. I know that that's where I'm supposed to do. And so that's definitely probably the biggest change. But also, lonely is not the right word, because I meet amazing people all the time, but it's very different. Being spiritually awake is like you know this, it's like living in a bar with drunk people and being sober. You know, it really is. And it's hard. And I've come so far in like controlling marriage, just not arguing with, there's no, you know, there's no right or wrong too. It's everybody's just perception of reality too. And it's just, I just want to tell everyone to calm down. You don't have to fight about it. Doesn't matter.
You're both right. Everyone's
It's
right.
all right. We're all right. What side of the mountain are you looking at? You know? But Dad's calmness is just definitely in peace. And the wild part is not being afraid to be alone. I like being alone.
Mhm.
I have projects galore, I have things galore. I'm in my yoga training. Yeah, for the first time, like being alone is lovely. I like myself.
Self-love. I was going to say, what about self-love? And
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's because that's what but my problem was when you wake up to you don't like the person you are, so you don't love yourself. So that's the whole nother story too, is learning on the journey to love, which is the highest vibration. You know, you can't truly love someone. People say they love you all the time. You know, like our distorted perception of what we think love is most codependency is mostly what love is in a romantic relationship. It's needing someone to fill this void, this self-love that you can only give yourself. So that's going to be finding that love and like pouring from a full cup. And I think that's what teaching at the school is doing for me too, learning unconditional love. And my dad has taught me that. My dad, like I say, was really supportive, but once I was healed, and when I was going to therapy and wanted to talk about my family trauma with him, he clammed back up and like went way over here and went back to calling me crazy.
Right. Because that means you want to talk about him.
Yeah. Well, it's a while because what he said? He said, this is why I don't like therapists. They want to blame everything on the parents. I'm like, wait, were you telling me that I needed therapy? So here I was like back in the cycle, but I'm like, no, I'm not going there. No. And so we actually don't talk. And I know. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, we're not on bad terms. It's, happy Father's Day. I love you, text, and that's about it. But it's hard not to be sad about it, but he taught me unconditional love. I love him anyways. I love him unconditionally. I know that he's probably not capable of healthy love, he's living, this is huge for me to talk about this publicly, but my dad was one of the reasons I got into health and wellness in the first place. My dad's really unhealthy. He's worked really hard. He took care of his family. He had a super successful business. He took really good care of us, but he didn't take care of himself. And now he's 69 and he can barely walk. He's had all kinds of surgeries. He has rods in his back. He's had hip replacements, knee replacements. He had a stroke in his eye. And I gave him Becoming Supernatural for Father's Day.
You're like, here, heal yourself.
I even highlighted pages that were, a little more sciencey and less spiritual about, the science behind, doing this kind of breath work and how it could help him. And I asked him once if he looked at it. I used to buy him supplements and stuff for holidays and stuff. And
force it down his throat.
Not force, but just try to bring some awareness to it, but that's where you really let go of your trauma though, is when you can let go. I'm not holding on to that anymore. That why can't, he accept me for who I am, or why can't he? The wild thing is, when I was teaching yoga in Fortuna, one of his doctors was coming to my class.
Really? Oh my gosh.
One of his doctors was one of my yoga students. Yeah. Oh. I know. That was a big turning point, a realization too, that I may not be able to help my dad and I have to let go of that, but he made me want to learn, and I'm helping tons of other people, I think that's part of being spiritually awake too, is not trying to hold on to things that aren't serving you. You just, like I say, we talk about, I can't.
Yeah. Because you just care so much now about your vibration, like I was saying before, and like the reality that you're creating. And
yeah. And I just keep thinking everything's working out for me. Everything is. We're getting everything you want. You can have anything you want.
Right.
Anything. Yeah.
Even when it seems like it's not working out, it's like, it's not supposed to work out, right?
Yeah, because something better is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to let something up. You only have so much room in your life for so much stuff. So if you want to bring something new in, you have to be able to let go of the old. And the hard part is you have to let go of the old first, but we're terrified to let go.
Yeah.
We're terrified. We hold on to things for so long because we think it's what we want, or we think it's what we need.
Yeah. Tell me how your ex-husband thinks about you now.
Well, I can't answer that for him, but we're decent. He has a really amazing partner, and she's been a freaking blessing. I would say she's like my angel. Like, seriously. I don't know how him and I would have co-parented together. We're just so different. We grew into such different people, which is crazy because I felt like we were on the same level for a long time till we had kids. Even when we were married, like, we didn't fight, nothing. We had like this perfect relationship. Like, it was wild. Kids came, everything changed. I won't get into that, but it did. And we've been divorced since my daughter was 1, and Hannah came into our lives when Penelope was 2. So she's been there the whole time. And I swear to God, like, she's such a blessing. I adore her. We have a great relationship. So I do most of my co-parenting with her. It's pretty much her and I raising the kids together. So I don't really talk to him at all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's really lovely.
Crazy or what?
I'm sure he doesn't probably say me. I'd like to think maybe he doesn't. I do think that I, kind of stood my ground, and I think, not that I need to, proven myself. I'm okay. I'm fine. Better than I've ever been. I needed therapy. Thank you. Like, I needed to stand up. I needed all of that to happen. We actually maybe kind of had a conversation, we stand, if they're standing together, like, I just mostly talk to Hannah and he just stands there, but we're starting to actually talk to each other a little bit. I mean, we're not on terrible terms. I don't know if we'll ever be super close, but one of the things that I really got into when I started waking up to was lucid dreaming.
Oh, cool.
Have you ever seen that Leonardo DiCaprio movie? That's about dreams.
Inception?
Yes.
Oh my God, I've been wanting to watch that.
You've never seen it?
And I have, like, a long time.
Oh, watch it again. It's your sign. Oh, it's so good, especially when you're spiritually awake. Movies have a whole new meaning when you're spiritually awake too. You see all the magic in it. But you know how there's always his ex-wife, or his wife that died, she's always like in his subconscious in the movies, and she's always rooting it. Well, he goes into dreams and does all this stuff in dreams and stuff, but his wife that died always comes back and like ruins whatever he's trying to do in his dreams. So she's like so deep in his subconscious, and it turns out that it's his guilt because it was her fault that his fault that she died or something like that. But that's how the kid's dad was in my dreams. Like, he was always in my subconscious, and we were always getting back together, but it was always terrible when we got back together in our dreams. And it was just always, it was always bad. We were always back together, but we were never happy. And it was so wild. So I started, lucid dreaming is when when you start to fall asleep, you start to kind of control your dreams a little bit. And I got kind of good at that, but I also realized that I was getting good at controlling my subconscious in my conscious, when I was in my waking time. So in my dream, I had control. You're totally out of control in your dream. I had control in my dream, and we were back together having this miserable moment. And I just turned to him and just got super vulnerable and like said things that probably I wish I would have said in my marriage that probably would have changed things then. And I feel like it was a turning point that was kind of a healing point, is like through my dream. Like, that's the kind of weird shit I do now. Yeah, it's just controlling your subconscious. And that's a part of what being spiritually awake too is, we live 95% in our subconscious and only 5% in our conscious mind. And that's just garbage that they teach in the scientific world, that we only use 10% of your brain. It's just that we don't know how, we're not using it. We're absolutely capable of it. I've been diving, and I think we're going to see a lot. Like I say, I've really worked hard at tying science to spirituality because people want to believe science. They don't want science and even quantum physics. You go to find a quantum physics book, it's not in science in the subject books. It's under metaphysics or religion. Quantum physics is barely, and it's the realest science ever. But epigenetics. You heard epigenetics is going to change everything, because that's straight science, and they're absolutely proving that our DNA is changeable. I mean, they just proved that like the nucleus of a cell is not really the brain of a cell, that it's actually the membrane surrounding the cell, which means that we're totally changeable by our environment and adaptable, which totally like changes evolution. It changes everything. So I'm really excited, but it's going to take a whole old mindset going away, you know, and people opening up that we've been very wrong about science.
Yeah, which is
just a little bit. And there's a lot's been hidden from us, and that we have completely lost our, you know, magic.
Yeah. Well, what a great thing to have happen, because hopefully it will be a gateway to like, what else could we be wrong about, you know, our society as a whole, you know?
Oh gosh, I'm reading this amazing book because part of my deep dive too. Like I said, I dove into everything. When I woke up, I wanted the answers to everything. I went down every freaking rabbit hole all the way to the end. I spent a whole year studying the life of Jesus.
Wow. Yeah.
It was freaking amazing. And that's what made me get into yoga, because I found that this book, Jesus Lived in India.
Oh.
It's amazing. Did you know that?
No, I haven't read that one.
Jesus lived a lot of his adult life in India studying yoga. That was part of his like metaphysical powers.
Yeah.
Was yoga training. Oh, it's really cool. I'll steer clear of some of what it says. I don't want to make too much of a conspiracy theorist, but
well, most conspiracy theories are true. So.
Well, that's funny. You know, I should stop using that word. I use that word a lot, and I also use the word witch, and I use them jokingly. Like I call myself a witch all the time, you know, but a witch just means someone that's tapped into their intuition, to their powers, you know. And on that note too, what I was going with that is, I don't remember with that book, but one book usually leads to another book, but the one I'm reading right now is When Women Were Priests. Because on my deep dive, well, because I wanted to do like a whole religious deep dive of all different religions, and with Christianity, that one kind of had me stuck, because I realized that was kind of when things shifted
in the world.
Women lost their power. That's when women lost their power, and when control really came into play, and power. And white men, you know, coming into power. This is really where the trauma started, I think.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, because now it's like, it's such a huge religion. And I'm not saying anything against Christianity, because it's beautiful. These people are connected to source. They're connected to God, consciousness. But the power that came with that religion is really powerful. And like I say, this book I'm reading now, When Women Were Priests, and that shift, when women used to be in political power, very powerful positions, and when that was stripped away from them over some triggered men.
There's this episode of a show on Gaia. Do you have Gaia?
Yes, I do. And I never watch it. I need to.
I know, I went to my Netflix and I got Gaia. It's so good. Everything I ever watched. Like, there's this one series that you would love. It's called Ancient Civilizations, and it has a bunch of seasons. I watched all of them.
Is it with Billy Carlson?
He's in there. Yes.
Oh, I
know him. I know. I like him too. It's got a bunch of other people too. But there's one episode, and it's about women and what you're talking about. You got to watch it. It's so good. I'll try to send it to yours.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about Elizabeth April and how she what part did she play in your
God, she was a godsend, but then I kind of grew away from her a little bit. But no, she was I found her through Amy, you know, because Amy was just sending me all kinds of people that were on the same vibe as me and on the same path. And I don't even know where to start with her. She was just an amazing being, and she was just channeling things, and she was just so sure of herself. And I think finding people like that were spiritually awake and talking I mean, April talks about, there's some of the things she talks about, I'm not even sure I believe, you know, but she had the confidence that she had talking about it, gave me the confidence to start living my authentic self, and to be like, no, I can have my own reality. And who cares if aliens are real or not? She's having fun and she's not hurting anybody. And, and she wants to be part of the Galactic Federation right the frick on, like you go meet with your galactic beings and, but there was a lot of truth to what she was saying though. I mean, some of the things that she was saying were happening. And, she was right about a lot of things. And so it made her a lot more credible to me, but it's also me, then you go back and forth and wonder, was it real, or because I believed it, it became real?
Right.
Do you go to that story?
The same thoughts, and I have the same questions sometimes when I'm watching her content or whatever. I'm like, are we all just like collectively creating this?
I think we are. Knowing what I know about quantum physics and the actual science behind it. Yeah, I think we're creating that reality. I was just re-listening to some Joe Dispenza before I came here because, I was like, oh, talk about the, but that's absolutely, they're proving that scientifically that, things don't exist in this 3D reality until we think it. So we're, people like Elon Musk and these people that are just creating these outlandish things, they're thinking these things and then they manifest. Me and my friend used to joke about that. We took this class in high school called Careers 2000 and you had to invent something in your class. And we invented scented trash bags. They like didn't exist in the 90s, like we Googled it and apparently they did, but they weren't a mainstream thing.
You didn't know about it first.
And we didn't have Google. You didn't just go, and so we got a terrible grade on the project. The teacher thought it was so outlandish and probably just we were so goofy. But then like 20 years later, we're like, what the heck? We're like, did he just collect all our patents and then sell them? We're like, did we manifest that into reality because we thought that? But that's absolutely how it happens.
Yeah, all of our consciousnesses are connected. And then so if somebody,
I think Elizabeth Abel used to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She used to talk about inventing things and like coming up with ideas and stuff like that. And it just takes somebody thinking it, and then it might not even be the same person. So I'll think of something and then you'll like feel my thought and you'll get it. But that's exactly how our reality is created. That's how we're in this ever expanding universe.
Yeah. So what made you drift away from her? You said you kind of went, because you read her book and everything, and
oh yeah, I passed it on to you. Did you pass it on?
I'm still reading it. Actually.
Oh god, I plowed through it. Oh really? I plowed through it. Like
I didn't start it right away. I tried to.
Oh, it's so good. I feel like we're a little past. We're already awake.
Right.
I learned that too in my Kundalini yoga training. Like most of the people that were in that training were not awake. They were taking the Kundalini class to be awake. I'm like, I'm already past this. Fast forward, but it was really cool to see that perspective too, and to see them trying and talk about what was happening to them as they're going through the awakening process. I think that she lost track of her purpose. And that's just my thing. And also she had a baby. So now she's on that. And so, I feel like she got caught up in the money a little bit and just doing it for the wrong purpose. And,
with her whole membership thing?
Yeah, no, not even the membership. I think when she, she did like a TV show or something like that. And then I don't know. I just, and maybe it's my own spiritual evolution. I just felt like I didn't resonate with what she was saying as much anymore. And I didn't feel in alignment with it anymore. It's nothing bad. She didn't do anything bad. There's something that she said or did that was anything bad.
Okay, I was just wondering because I was like, I didn't know about.
Oh, no. I mean, I did feel like when she moved to Canada and she did the whole like, oh, I'm going to get vaccinated if I have to. I'm going to Canada.
Oh, she said
that? I'm pretty sure she did. I'm pretty sure that's the only way you get to Canada.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
But and that's not to bother me. People care, but she was so anti, and whatever, you can do whatever you want. But then I noticed she was really quiet about it. She didn't talk openly about it. So then I just felt like there wasn't as much authenticity. Like I say, I wasn't judging her for either way, but it was the lack of authenticity that she maybe was, just not being totally authentic, and that she was kind of selling herself out just because she wanted to go to Canada.
Right. Trying to just continue to have that image
that she became more about her image. She wasn't being her authentic self on a whole, but she's beautiful. For anyone in that book, You're Not Dying, You're Just Waking Up by Elizabeth April. I recommend to anyone that feels like they're going through a spiritual awakening or starting to question things.
what else would you recommend to kind of wrap it up here? Like, what else would you recommend for?
If you want to have a spiritual awakening, start asking for more. That's really what it took for me. I remember a few years ago when I got out of a really bad breakup and I was like, just tired of that cycle. I was tired of the cycle. I was like, I see what's happening. I see the repetition and why I'm having these unhealthy relationships with men. And I want to stop it. I want something different. And boom, that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. The slow process, but like I say, I kept drinking. I kept living an unhealthy lifestyle. I was fighting it until I went on that, like I say, that detox. So yeah, if you want to have a spiritual awakening, if you're tired of living your life, clean up your diet, number one, and exercise. That's like number one, your body, because your body has to be in good health, do yoga, all the things, but, and be ready to freaking let go. You have to literally face your worst fear, and then learn to meditate too, because that's when you start being able to listen to yourself. You have all the answers. They're all right in front of you. And just got to stop talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Stop thinking you have it figured out too. It's 99% of the time that we think we have things figured out. We're wrong. And then we're going in this like wrong direction, then wrong direction, then we're overcorrecting and overcorrecting. And then you just flow down river. Like we make our lives so much harder than they have to be by trying to figure things out instead of we're being guided.
Yeah.
By whatever you want to believe in. We're being guided.
Amen.
Just let go. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh my God.
Dive deep with you because I've heard bits and pieces of what you went through, but it was really cool to hear the whole thing.
It's good. It's painful, but it's good, and I'm happy to share it. And hopefully people don't feel so alone. And
yeah, you had a lonely one.
Especially in the middle of COVID, being in lockdown and just like, it was wild. It was so wild, but
you were alone, but you weren't alone as in a lot of other people, that was what, prompted their spiritual awakening too, that being alone during COVID.
Oh yeah, it was like the whole world was in a timeout. Yeah. The whole world.
The whole COVID thing in general, because people are like, what's going on? Like,
well, I really think on a bigger level, I didn't want to get too into this because we could have a whole conversation about this too, but I really think that's what happened. I don't know exactly. I went down this rabbit hole too, trying to figure out like scientifically what happened in our world with this, like shift in consciousness, but I think we hit this tipping point of like almost ungratefulness. Like everybody was just so ungrateful and living in this, and God, the universe, whatever, was like, okay, we're done with this, but I also think that enough people were waking up that it started happening. And I really think it was like a time out to like reevaluate how we're living our lives. And I think we're starting to shift back. I think we hit the worst. I really think the worst is done. We were living so freaking unconsciously, just materialistic, day to day, going through the motions. Unhealthy, unfreaking healthy.
Well, there are more and more people waking up every day. I believe
it too. I do believe we're going back up. If you were going back, yes. Yay! Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Speaking of Spirituality. If you'd like to connect with me personally or book a session for Quantum Soul Alchemy, you can find me on Instagram at Ascending with Amelia. Have a beautiful day.